Another great weekend in Arkansas sports, and it was nothing short of spectacular. The baseball team showcased power on the diamond as they swept the Murray State Racers. Basketball brought a tough matchup against Kentucky on the road, and gymnastics displayed elegance and precision as they reached another program record high score on the road at Missouri, while softball continued to hit it out of the park in the Whoopig Classic. It was a weekend filled with victories, stellar performances, and relentless spirit of the Razorbacks shining at every game.
You hear that? You hear that? That's special. There's a lot of lions, tigers, and bears, but there ain't but one Razorback.
Football! Deep left field! Out of here!
All I want you to do tonight is play your best. Don't worry about making a mistake. You make a mistake, that's fine as long as you're going 100 miles an hour.
Welcome into episode 68 of the Whoopig Weekly Podcast, your go-to podcast for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Join us as we dissect the victories, analyze the plays, and revel in the spirit of the Hawgs. Before we get started, remember episode 68 is brought to you by Homefield. Step into the legacy of collegiate style with Homefield's premium vintage apparel. Embrace the spirit of your alma mater or favorite team with our meticulously crafted, comfortable, and stylish collection. Elevate your game day attire and celebrate the rich history of college sports. Homefield, where tradition meets modern comfort in every stitch. So you can go check out Homefield today. Use promo code Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off that first order. Fantastic items. Go check them out. And we'll get started here as we do have a little bit of football news as spring practice is getting ready to get started up this weekend. Coach Pittman had his opening press conference and went through a few things, and we've got a few guys here that we have some updates on. You got a couple guys that are no longer with the team. Jashad Stewart, as you remember, end of last year, he was arrested for burglary, towards the end of the season and was kicked off the team essentially. And, Pittman updated us that he is still no longer with the team. So most likely he's not coming back for this season. You have offensive lineman Andrew Chambly that is no longer with the team. Pittman mentioned it, and, that's a blow because you saw him start 8 games last year, a really talented recruit that came in. Pittman claimed he had, just kind of lost the love of the game for the program. And then, he later on in the day posted to X or Twitter that he wasn't done yet. So most likely when the transfer portal opens up here in a few days, you'll probably see him be one of those guys that leaves. Unfortunately, don't know what happened. If there's something with, some guys were brought in, who knows? But, that's an update we got from Pittman. Another guy, freshman Zuri Madison, he is a freshman defensive lineman that was coming in that had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, out for the season for tearing his ACL in a scooter accident of all things. So not even football related. You hate to see that. And, hopefully he has a good recovery and will be back ready for next season. Besides that, a few other updates Pittman had. He's excited to see an actual true quarterback battle this season. He said they're going to have longer periods with more 7-on-7. That way they can see these guys in action, working with these wide receivers. And then you have, he mentioned Bobby Petrino, where, he's gotten total control of this offense. He said he feels really good about it and is excited to see what he can do as we get spring practice kicked off here. Anything you want to throw in there, Seth?
No, I'll just kind of hit on the Andrew Chambly news because that came as a little bit of a surprise to me. But it could be a good thing. Everybody's quick to jump to conclusions that it's a negative type thing, but it might not be. Coach Mateo's coming in here who's a new face, can be, maybe shaking up the culture a little bit, which in my opinion might not be the worst thing ever to happen to our offensive line with how porous they were at times last year. Maybe come in here, kind of shake things up a little bit, maybe got a little too hard for somebody that didn't want to kind of grit it out potentially. That's obviously speculation. Could be vastly different other things, but that's kind of where my gut wants to go, and kind of hope that maybe there's some good changes happening that's causing some of the wheat to separate from the chaff, as they say. But overall, it's exciting to kind of hear some football news. Some of this, maybe kind of being a little bit more on the negative side, but all in all, it does kind of get the juices flowing, getting everybody excited. It's good to hear from Pittman. Fun to hear. We all knew that the quarterback battle was going to be there. There's speculation that it's kind of Taylor's job maybe to lose in a sense, but I think it really is more of a wide open race between several of them. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to your point as well, Bobby Petrino, who learns his offensive style and plays the quickest, who makes the least amount of mistakes, things of that nature. I think that's really going to come in to factor on who gets that starting job. I mean, obviously the talent side of it's one thing, but knowing the game is another thing. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where it all shakes out, and definitely, can't get here fast enough. Don't want to wish time away, and I'm really enjoying baseball season. That's one of my favorite sports, but football is one of my favorites as well. And it's going to be a fun year kind of getting to see some of the changes that have been made.
Yeah, that's very true. With some of these guys, it's like, you never know what happens. You have coaching changes and guys have relationships with the previous coach there at that position. So things like that. And so, whatever happens to Andrew Chambly, wherever he goes, you wish him luck. Hopefully, maybe it's not another SEC program, but, a program where he can go and have success and maybe a fresh start. And so we'll jump out of football and into basketball as Arkansas women finished up their SEC season and have the SEC tournament coming up this week. And they did not end their season on a great note like we wish they would have. They had South Carolina come to town February 29th and lost this game 98-61. We mentioned before you'd like to see them keep that under a 30-point loss. Unfortunately, that was not the case here, where they have the potential to be the future champions in South Carolina. So they've just got a really good program there. And, as we mentioned before, we're building that way, but we're not close yet. And so, you see what happens here. You look at leading scores for Arkansas. You had Miriam Dowda come in with 19, followed by Samara Spencer and Carly Keats with 11 each, and then Michaela Daniels with 10. Leading rebounders, you had Jenna Lawrence with 6, followed by Michaela Daniels with 6, and Carly Keats and Emery Ellis tied with 3. Shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 33.3% in the game, 21 out of 63 from the field, 19.5% from three-point range, going 8 out of 41, and 73.3% from the free throw line, going 11 out of 15. It's one of these where you're just outmatched in your competition. Plus, we're still in the absence of Talia Scott, with some injuries she's been dealing with off and on this season. She had the hot start of the season, had those back issues, was out for a little bit, came back for a few games, and then kind of disappeared again due to injury. So that could have some to do with it. But I think overall we were just outmatched in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I actually don't hate the fact that we took 41 threes, because to beat a team like South Carolina, you kind of have to have some major good luck on your side. Taking 41 threes, if you could have, miraculously hit 15 to 20 of those, then yeah, maybe this is a little bit of a different game. But yeah, even still, to your point, this is not a good matchup. Anybody that plays South Carolina is going to have a tough time. They are on a different echelon of a team. So, you got to take your lumps when they happen like this. But overall, just move on. Unfortunately, that we haven't had the best ending to the season, like you said, and we'll cover more of that in a minute. But tough loss against a really, really good South Carolina team that in my mind, I think they're going to go all the way.
Yeah, that's very true. They got some competition potentially. I know they had a close matchup with LSU early on in the SEC schedule, so I wouldn't be surprised to see those two, make a far run in the tournament. But like you said, the potential for them to be national championships yet again is
pretty high.
Very true and very there. And so we'll jump over to Arkansas men's basketball as they went on the road to Kentucky. And I swear this team never ceases to surprise me, as they went on the road and played a tough matchup with Kentucky. Kept it a close game. Wasn't a blowout, kind of like we thought could be potential. It was only a 9-point loss, where Arkansas actually put up over 100 points this season. So for like maybe the second time, I believe, something like that. They lost this game 111-102, where Arkansas was in this game right up until the end. This team kept fighting. You had several guys having great nights, and having great shooting nights. And when you talk about that, Khalif Battle, 34 points. We mentioned his third consecutive game with 30-plus points, dating back to that Missouri game. So he's kind of really found his stride here late in the season. Tremont Mark coming in with 23, Jeremiah Davenport with 14. So you see Davenport scoring a little bit more in this game, where he came in and he actually shot the ball really well, especially from the three-point line, and was able to come in and contribute. Then on the rebounding side of things, Khalif Battle led all rebounders with 8, followed by Jeremiah Davenport with 5 and Tremont Mark with 4. So you see the same guys leading in scoring and rebounding as well. Shooting-wise, Arkansas shot 53.1% from the field, going 34 of 64. which is fantastic. You got 41.2% from the 3-point line, going 7 of 17, and 96.4% from the free throw line, going 27 out of 28. You can't ask for a much better shooting night than what Arkansas got here. It just happened to Kentucky hit a few more shots than Arkansas did, especially if you look at from beyond the arc. Reed Shepherd is just out of this world playing as a freshman, and that's the threat he brings is that 3 ball. And it was just Arkansas couldn't hang with that from deep, even though they still shot 41%.
Yeah, we didn't hit enough of them. We needed to be closer to that 10 mark or something like that, and then it still would have been tough. The one key takeaway from this game is that neither of these teams have been good at defense all year long. Kentucky's been scoring points in bunches, but they give up points in bunches. So I'm not going to say that I'm surprised with the score. I am glad that we were able to score with them, because there's been nights when, even when we been getting open looks, we still have missed shots when we shouldn't have. So we did come out and execute pretty well, but I think this was kind of another testament that, look, we have not played defense like a normal Musselman coach kind of team this year at all. I mean, this was example number 15 or something, where it just seems like we really weren't able to get stops, force turnovers, protect the rim as well as we should, obviously not close out as well as we should. Just a lot of little things and a lot of those defensive fundamentals that we've kind of struggled with off and on all year that has caused us to lose some games and caused some inconsistency. Kentucky's had the same problem. They've obviously been a little bit better as far as their record goes, just with some of the talent they have to score as many points as they do. But so I think this is their 5th or 6th 100+ point game, with a couple of them being 110 plus. I mean, it's just wild what they've been able to do. Got to give them credit there. But overall, I'm glad we were able to come out and compete, especially in a tough environment at Rupp. So, been a weird year. I really don't know how else to kind of explain that side of it, but it's fun to watch a high-scoring game. Kind of felt like an NBA game almost, in college, which is a little bit uncharacteristic. So definitely entertaining, though, for sure.
Yeah, Arkansas has 2 more opportunities before conference tournament time gets here. They got LSU coming to town tomorrow on Wednesday, and then on Saturday you've got Alabama. So they're not easy matchups by any means, but hopefully they can carry some momentum from this game, even though we didn't win it. But showing that we can score and keep up with the likes of Kentucky. Hopefully, Khalif Battle keeps performing the way he has over these past 3 games. That makes me confident that we might have a shot, to get a win or 2 in these last couple of games going into the tournament and maybe get some confidence. But even if that is the case, it's a long shot. We mentioned it the past couple of weeks that the only potential for this Arkansas team to remotely get close to the tournament would be make a run in the SEC tournament and potentially win it. But that's still...
It's a stretch.
It's very much a stretch, but I am confident if any team could do this, this would be a Musselman team, a very Musselman thing to, we didn't have a great year, but find some way to inspire, spark something in these guys to go ahead and make a run. And, that would be the story of the season, in my opinion. But, hopefully these guys can keep building momentum and finish out the season strong on a positive note. And then, regardless if they make the tournament or not, then you get to work in the offseason getting ready for next year, because at this point, that's what you've got to look forward to.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, I mean, the possibility is still there that somehow you win the ACC tournament and get the auto bid. I don't see that happening, honestly. It'd be awesome, and would be kind of one of those Cinderella story types. Even if just to make the tournament, even if you lost in the first round or something, it still wouldn't matter. If you made the tournament, that's a win in my book, considering how the season went. But all in all, that's you can what if yourself to death. I think, to your point, you really got to kind of look for next year, see what you've got on this team right now, who's available to stay, who do you want to stay, who do you might not want to stay. I mean, there's going to be some tough decisions going to be coming up in the offseason, which even potentially in some of the assistant coaching side of things. I mean, you really got to look at it from top to bottom. So I'll be interested to see where the chips all do fall once these last couple of games are over with, ACC tournament's over with, and if we go NIT or something, I don't know. But once it's all said and done, I think there's going to have to be some hard decisions made from players' standpoint, from coaching standpoint, things of that nature. But we'll keep you guys posted as soon as we hear news in that front. But got my fingers crossed that we can finish strongly and win these last 2 games.
Yeah, that would be ideal. And as you're talking about the last game of the season, Arkansas, turned around from that loss against South Carolina, went on the road, final SEC regular season matchup with Ole Miss, and they did not fare much better in this game than against South Carolina, where on the road they fell 87-43, where it seemed like it was just one of those days where nothing went Arkansas's way. Leading scorers were Miriam Dowd and Michaela Daniels with 11 each, Samara Spencer with 10, Sailor Poffenbarger with 7. Leading rebounders for Arkansas were Poffenbarger with 6, Jenna Lawrence with 4, and Samara Spencer with 3. Shooting-wise, this could almost easily be a worse shooting performance this team had all season, going only 25.4% from the field, 16 out of 63. 15.8% from the three-point line, going 3 of 19, and 72.7% from the free throw line, 8 out of 11, which is not terrible. But those other two percentages are, you're not going to win any game shooting 25 and 15 from the field and 3-point.
Yeah, not at all. And we didn't get to the line enough either. So when you're only putting up 19 threes, yeah, we took 41 against South Carolina. You only took 19 here. That means you need to be getting to the free throw line more because you got to get points somewhere else extra. And it just didn't happen. You got to give some credit to Ole Miss for locking us down pretty much the entire game. But I think kind of to your point, this one was almost like a fluke where just there was a lid on the basket. It just like they set the rim at like 10.2 inches or something like that. Like it was just a little bit off. I don't know. Something did not look right, didn't feel right. I hate that they kind of had the last game of the season finish the way it did like this, getting them geared into the SEC tournament. It's not a good way to kind of transition into tournament mode, so to speak. So really hoping they can shake off these last couple of losses. They've had kind of a tough skid here at the end of the year, and it'll be a real test of their grit and their character on how well they're able to kind of shake all that loose, kind of get a clean slate, if you will, in the SEC tournament and see what kind of damage they can do there. So fingers crossed they have a good showing, but kind of a tough end of the year for sure.
Yeah. So hopefully as they get ready for the SEC tournament this week, they can kind of shake off these 2 bad losses and try to make a run as I know they're still sitting on those outside looking in for the tournament. So a good tournament run here could do, help boost their resume if there's any shot of them making the tournament, which we thought they had a good shot earlier in the season, but they didn't finish as strong as they needed to towards the end of the year. So hopefully they can make a tournament run here in the conference tournament to hopefully increase their shot at getting a bid to the NCAA tournament. And now we'll jump over to Arkansas Gymnastics, where they went on the road at Missouri and yet again set a program record for high score in this meet, which is fantastic. And, on the road beating Missouri with a total score of 197.650 to 197.525. Last conference matchup of the season. And Arkansas came out and performed well in this one. They outscored Missouri on the vault 49.250 to 49.225. So very slim margins there. Missouri outscored Arkansas on the bars 49.450 to 49.3. Arkansas outscored Missouri on the beam 49.575 to 49.250. So it's good to see us bounce back and actually have a good beam performance because that's something we'd struggled with in the previous 2 meets, and they came back out and performed strong here. And then Missouri outscored Arkansas on the floor 49.6 to 49.525. And this was a close matchup, as it was decided by 0.125 here, and that helped Arkansas replace its lowest score as far as top scores, which is how they kind of break it down on what you have to do to essentially make their version of the NCAA tournaments and so to have Arkansas come out and get another program high record, they're able to drop off one of their lower scores.
Yeah, that was one of the big talking points after this one was all said and done that the announcers really harped on was how critical and clutch, in a sense, it was for us to set another program record to be able to drop. I believe our top 6 scores now are all 197s plus, with this one being our new program record, which is great to see. So we were able to knock off our last 196.8 something, I believe it was, in that. I can't remember the acronym. It's like a QS something, which is which is basically like the rankings system, to your point, on how they kind of select who's in, who's out. It's almost like
an RPI.
Yeah, RPI, strength of schedule, something like that. Almost like quad 1 wins thing. There's a lot of different kind of comparisons you can make on that. But overall, what a performance. The biggest one, you already kind of touched on it, was just to be able to come out and have a good beam performance and actually beat your opponent in that routine. So that was a big step up for us, and hopefully they can kind of continue those strong performances on beam, because the rest of our categories have been very strong all year long, and it would set us up for a pretty good run, in my opinion.
Yeah, very true. So Arkansas has got 2 more meets left towards the end of the season. Nebraska and Oklahoma, 2 final meets coming to Arkansas, where those will be held in Bud Walton. So get out there and check them out. It's fantastic whenever they go take over Bud. You see a lot of people there, and it's just fantastic. So we'll jump over to Arkansas tennis. Arkansas women's tennis, went on the road, couple of matches here where they took on number 20 Tennessee, fell 6-1 on March 1st, and then backed that up with a loss to number 11 Georgia 4-0 on March 3rd. So the SEC's got some tough teams when it comes to women's tennis. And then you flip over to the men's side, they took on number 5 Tennessee and lost that 4-1 on the 3rd, and they beat Tennessee Tech 4-0. So Tennessee's got themselves a pretty good tennis program going right now, where both teams are ranked there. So unfortunately, it didn't go Arkansas's way, but maybe they can bounce back from that. Then Arkansas track and field, as we mentioned last week, they won the indoor SEC championships for both men and women. This week they will be heading to the NCAA indoor championships towards the end of this week, where they'll compete for hopefully to win 2 more titles to bring back to Fayetteville, Arkansas, aka track capital of the world.
Dang right, man. I'm rooting for them hard.
And so no midweek softball games this week so far. You got the Razorback Rumble coming up into this week. Hopefully some weather holds off that could affect some things, but the last of the 3 tournaments being held here at Bogle Park before we start getting into conference play and things of that nature. And as we jump over to Arkansas baseball, they had a midweek matchup tonight against UCA, so just finished a couple hours ago, where they got a close win 9-7 in the debut of the Pinstripes, bringing them back since 2013, and got a strong start in this one where gave up a couple runs in the first inning, but then kind of bounced back, and Colin Fisher got the start in this game, going 3 innings, throwing 47 pitches, allowing 4 hits, 2 runs, and 4 strikeouts. He was relieved by Cooper Dossett, who came in and threw for 1 1/3 innings, 29 pitches, allowed 2 runs and got 1 strikeout. You had Cody Frank come in on relief for 2/3 of an inning with 10 pitches. He had 3 hits, 2 runs. Gage Wood, 1 inning, 14 pitches, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. You had Stone Hewlett, 1 inning, 19 pitches, 4 strikeouts, and Gabe Geckel came in and finished the thing out with 2 innings, 35 pitches, 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. And he worked himself out of a jam in the end of this game to help kind of secure Arkansas's win here. And I think for me, the big talking point of this game is Vahiva Aloy. It was any time coming now, and he showed up and got his first Razorback home run in spectacular fashion with a grand slam, and that was followed up by Ben McLaughlin with a 3-run home run, both in the same inning. So you've got to love Arkansas having that firepower, but it does go back to, that we've talked about in the past. Arkansas seemed to continuously like to rely on that long ball to score some runs. And in this game, it was a close matchup where we won by 2. And late in the game, that's where we kind of faltered a little bit, but we were able to still secure the win here.
Yeah, that's very true. It is great to get the home runs in timely manner like we did. We had a couple of walks to get guys on base, and then I believe maybe a single or something like that to get the bases loaded for Vahiva to come up there and absolutely knock the cover off the baseball, like 427 feet or something like that, which we've talked about him in our Razorback recap episodes the past 2 Sundays, that he's hitting the ball so hard right now. He's just getting a little bit unlucky in some of the positioning. He's hitting it right at a center fielder, or his first at bat in this game is a prime example. He hit one about 370 feet. It would have hit the top of the wall if it hadn't been caught by the center fielder. So it's just, he's really making strong contact, having some really, really loud outs. And I'm glad to see him finally really get a hold of one that was a no-doubter. That nobody had a chance to catch and rob from him. So great to see him get his first home run. I'm kind of hoping it opens up the floodgates. You've seen it come in these last 4, 5, 6 games of his, he's really had a good approach at the plate. He's improved quite a bit just from the start of the season. In my opinion, he's not pulling off of the breaking balls quite as much as he was. He's kind of learning to let a couple of those go. And then, when he is making contact, he is absolutely crushing the ball. So get his bat hot at the right time, right in time for conference play, somewhere around there. I'm curious to see what he does this weekend against McNeese. I think that's really going to be critical to really see if he can kind of keep that momentum going into conference play. But it was definitely an exciting moment for him to do that. Couldn't have come at a better time, especially considering I think before that we were down 2 or 3-0, if I remember correctly. So kind of a clutch hit there to explode things in a sense and get us on the board. And then Ben McLaughlin, good old Benny Barrels, adding to things there. And every single run that we scored really was beneficial in this game, considering, we had a 7-2, 7-3. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 off the top of my head right now, lead, and then gave up some runs late in the game to get it a lot closer than it should have been. And to your point, they left Gabe Geckel in those last 2 innings. It was his game to kind of win or lose. He got himself in a little bit of a pickle, and I was glad that they left him in there. Didn't pull him. I believe he walked in a run and then had a strikeout to close things out there at the very end off of back-to-back breaking balls to get a guy looking on both of those to drop him in for strikes. I thought that was pretty impressive for him to calm himself down and be able to execute that well in a very, very tough situation, if you will. So those are some of those things that really are character-defining moments that you can learn a lot from as a pitcher that kind of, when you get yourself into another pickle potentially, in couple of weeks or something like that, you can think back to that. Hey, I've got this confidence. I can do this. I've done it before. I can get myself out of this and go out there and really execute. So for him to just be a freshman, to get those types of outings, that type of stress, it's rough, but it's really kind of the things that make a pitcher really turn into a great pitcher. And I think he's going to be kind of another one of those guys. Once he's here for a couple of years, he's going to be your next Hagen Smith. They were even talking about that on the broadcast today. He's already kind of got the fundamentals that he's going to end up being one of the next Razorback greats. He's fun to watch pitch.
Yeah, it was surprising. I thought it was funny. They were talking about how he was initially committed to UCLA, and then once they made their move to the Big Ten, he decided to decommit from there and, come join the pitching staff here at Arkansas, which, good for Arkansas and, how unfortunate for UCLA with the conference changes and the Pac-12 and everything out there. But that's going to be beneficial for Arkansas in the long run. Like you said, he's going to be a guy that's going to be here for 2 to 3 years and, hopefully develop into one of those next aces in a sense, just like Hagen Smith and Brady Tygart and those guys have been able to do. And I want to look at the stats here. You look at Vahiva's home run. You shorted it a little bit, Seth. It went 442.
Oh, my bad.
442 with 106 off the bat. Some stats there for you. Ben McLaughlin's home run, 420, 102 off the bat. So these guys were swinging the bats extremely hard in this game, trying to that boomer bust hit there and the count they were in. So you got to love hits like this. And Arkansas needs to continue to develop to play their small ball. We saw some good instances of that over this weekend against Murray State. Go check out that Razorback recap where we highlighted this weekend's games. And you saw a little bit of that towards the end of the game where we were able to score 2 additional runs to kind of give us those insurance runs, if you will. And so I think this team is going to continue to develop. The pitching's already there. You just got to continue to develop the hitting and guys getting a rhythm and figuring things out.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I've been enjoying kind of seeing how Dave Van Horn's been shuffling the lineup here and there, just to try to get guys some rhythm, try to play the hot hand, if you will, so to speak. There's been a little bit of a shift here and there to, like, for example, Peyton Holt played at third base today, and I actually thought he did very well out there, giving Sprague-Lott some time off, which Sprague-Lott's been one of our better, kind of small ball hitters. So it was good to see him come out there and really lock down the hot corner. I thought he had a couple of good highlight plays, hit the ball fairly well. There is some small things that we could improve on from a small ball perspective. We've got to get a little bit better at bunting. We've got to get a little bit better at place hitting. You still see from time to time that we're trying to pull those outside pitches when you really just got to try hard to poke those the opposite way. And you got a couple hitters. Jason Jones kind of comes to mind as somebody that he gets a little pull happy every now and then. If he's slowly made some improvements, I think, from the beginning of the year, and that's why he's earned so much more playing time lately. But you see him, keep developing throughout the year. It's going to come. These guys are going to get a little bit better at just getting those base hits to get on base. And then if you can sprinkle that in with the home runs, that's a deadly combo, especially when you only got to score 4 or 5 runs a game to win them usually. So all in all, a fun matchup with an in-state opponent. It's always good to see UCA come to town. We've had some close games with them in the past, so another close one to kind of add to the books here. I think the last one was a 2-1 win for the Hogs. A little bit of not bad blood necessarily, but history for the close ones there. UCA has a good ball club. They're not bad at all. They've got like 4 or 5 super seniors on that team that have played baseball for a long time in college, and they are nothing to joke about. So you can't look at this one and be like, we should have just blown them out. Yeah, we might should have won by a few more runs, but it's not like we were playing a slouch of a team by any stretch. So great midweek win, especially getting a couple of guys some critical innings on the mound to keep their rhythm, so to speak. And some of those guys really do have a big role on the weekends. Cody Frank, for example, didn't have his best outing, but you keep him loose and limber, and I'm sure he'll have some critical innings this weekend as well.
Yeah, so true. And as we wrap up here, we'll jump over to upcoming events as it's another jam-packed weekend for Arkansas sports as men's basketball. They host LSU tomorrow, Wednesday the 6th, starting at 6 p.m. Women's basketball will take on 7-seeded Auburn in the first round of the SEC tournament on Thursday the 7th at 5 o'clock. As previously mentioned, men's and women's indoor track and field will be at the NCAA championships on Friday and Saturday the 9th and 10th. Women's tennis will take on Alabama on Friday the 8th, and men's tennis will take on Vanderbilt Friday as well. Baseball starts their next weekend series against McNeese State on Friday, March 8th at 3 o'clock. Game 2 will be on Saturday at 2 o'clock, and Game 3 at 1 o'clock on Sunday the 10th. And then, as mentioned before, softball has the last of their 3 tournaments they're hosting, and the Razorback Rumble this weekend will be they'll take on South Alabama on Friday afternoon, St. Francis that night in a doubleheader. They'll play another doubleheader on Saturday against Northern Iowa and South Alabama. They round out the weekend on Sunday with a matchup against Northern Iowa at 12:15. So a lot of softball going on and baseball down at the Diamonds. Men's basketball will go on the road in their final matchup of the season to take on Alabama at 11 a.m. on Saturday the 9th. Volleyball will take on ULM at home on Saturday the 9th at 3 o'clock. Women's tennis takes on Auburn on Sunday, and men's tennis will take on South Carolina. Gymnastics has a meet with Oklahoma on Sunday the 10th at 3:45. And then baseball has their midweek matchup against Oral Roberts on Tuesday the 12th at 6 p.m. before they get ready to start up conference play. And then men's SEC basketball tournament will begin Wednesday the 13th. So a lot of upcoming things going on. Seasons are coming to a close and seasons are getting into full swing, things like that. And so, as always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you can find those. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Woo Pig Weekly, and we'll be right back here next week.